everyone. This is Chair Miller, and I'd like to formally call the meeting to order. Welcome to city staff, transportation commissioners, and the public to the October 16th Transportation Commission meeting. Meetings are being held in person, televised on Cox Cable Channel 11, and streamed online on scottsdaleaz.gov for the public to listen and view the meeting in progress. I'd like to ask for a roll call to begin this evening's meeting.
Sorry. Chair Miller?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wilcoxon?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Marmon?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Pankowicz?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Koftile?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardella?
Here.
Thank you. And Commissioner Davis is absent.
Thank you. Just make a note of that. Spoken comment is being accepted for agendized and non-agendized items. The request to speak forms must be submitted no later than 90 minutes before the start of the meeting. I do have one request to speak form from Mr. Lee Cooley. Hang on just a second, Mr. Cooley, if you would. Ms. Conklu, do we have any other requests to speak forms?
Chair Miller, we do not.
Okay. Written comments are being accepted for agendized and non-agendized items and should be submitted electronically at least 90 minutes before the start of this meeting. These comments are also emailed to the Transportation Commission and posted online. Have we received any written comments?
Chair Miller, we have no written comments.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Cooley to speak to the group. 3 minutes? Do we have a 3-minute limit? Yes? Oh, wait. Just going to time you.
I'll get my timer. Sorry.
Chair Miller, Vice Chair Wilcoxon, esteemed members of the Commission. My name is Lee Cooley. I live at 10142 East Flourier Drive. I also serve on the Human Services Advisory Commission, although I'm not here on behalf of the Commission this evening. I was very pleased to read back in August that the trolley route was extending to the food bank, the Granite Reef Senior Center, and Vista del Camino Community Center. The reason I was really excited by that is because at the end of last year we had focus groups and surveys that helped us put together the 2026 Human Services Strategic Plan, and there were several references to extending the trolley route, if at all possible, to the NOAA Cholla Health Center off of McDowell and Pima, which is about a half mile from Granite Reef. So I just wanted to throw that out, put it in your ear in case you had time to consider it. I know it might add a few more miles to the trolley itself, but if on those Thursdays perhaps there was a way to include the Cholla Center. It is a nonprofit that combines family medicine, pediatric care, dental services, and so on. So anyway, that would be great if you could. That was my request. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll certainly take that into consideration. Mr. Dome, did you want to say something? You look like you have a comment.
I always have comments. No, so Chair Miller, Transportation Commission will be happy to look into that possibility. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Cooley, for coming. So with that, we have a MAG update on Pima Road project from Las Piedras to Cave Creek Road.
Chair Miller, first we have to approve the draft meeting minutes, and then we'll
I'm sorry about that.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, this is my last meeting, so I'm making first-timer errors.
Thank you.
Let's look at the meeting minutes of the September 18th meeting. Do you have any comments or a motion to approve?
Do we have any corrections that anyone has found?
I move to approve the minutes.
Commissioner
Second.
Marmon?
Commissioner Marmon
Approved.
made a motion, and second,
Commissioner Koftile.
Koftile. Thank you.
With that, is there any discussion? Ms. Conklu, can we take a vote?
Yes. Chair Miller?
Approved.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wilcoxon?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Marmon?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Pankowicz?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Koftile?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardella?
Yes.
Thank you.
And with that, we have a presentation from the MAG update. We have Tim Stroh, Major Project Manager with Maricopa Association of Governments. Welcome, Mr. Stroh.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Miller, members of the Commission. My name is Tim Stroh. I'm with Maricopa Association of Governments. I'm here tonight to present an update on the Pima Road Corridor Study from Las Piedras to Cave Creek Road. I'm also being joined tonight by the consultant team that helped to manage this study, members of Kimley Horn, David Rutkowski, and Zach Candy. So tonight, I'm going to walk the Commission through the alternatives for this corridor study. But before I do, I'd like to provide a little bit of background information on what the study's about and how we got here today. This project kicked off last year, about, I would say in the summertime, at the request of the town of Carefree and the city of Scottsdale. The corridor is 4.1 miles long. It is the last section of Pima Road to be under study, either design or widened and constructed from the Loop 101 all the way up to Cave Creek Road. We do anticipate a significant amount of growth in this corridor. That green section you see highlighted on the map, that is undeveloped state land that still needs to go to auction. It's about 4,000 acres, and I believe the last estimate will be around 5,000 homes built in this area. Another driving factor on why we're doing this study at the request of the city of Scottsdale and the town of Carefree is that both agencies have MAG Prop 400 Arterial Lifecycle Program funding for this corridor. So with Prop 400 coming to an end, we need to move forward with programming the funds and getting this project constructed. So this project looked at a variety of different things. One of them was definitely road widening. Today the road is one lane in each direction, if for those of you who are not familiar with this section of Pima Road. We looked at a lot of, I'll hit the intersections in a second, but we looked at signalizing intersections, also looking at roundabouts, in addition to adding bike lanes, sidewalks, and access management. As I stated earlier, this is the last section of Pima Road to be studied or widened. As you can see, down by the Loop 101, it's a 6-lane arterial with a median today, and as you go further to the north, it transitions to a 4-lane arterial with median, and I'll let out the surprise, but one of our recommendations is to continue with that trend and propose a 4-lane arterial with median. We looked at 10 different intersections for this study corridor. The ones highlighted and the bolded are the ones we looked at to either signalize or put in a roundabout. The other intersections are all stop controlled, so we look at making those intersection minor improvements to make sure those operate efficiently. Today, Lone Mountain Road is an existing signalized intersection, and Westland Road is also a signalized intersection, where Stagecoach Pass is stop controlled in the east and westbound direction, and Cave Creek Road intersection is a 4-way stop control. So safety is a focus of ours on this study. We heard this from the town of Carefree and the city of Scottsdale. There were over 70 crashes in a 5-year period along this section of roadway. 57% of the accidents occurred between Stagecoach Pass and Cave Creek Road at the end of the line. And that's how I kind of like to talk about this part of Pima Road. This corridor has variable speed limits. So we have it as high as 50 miles an hour, all the way down to 35 miles an hour. And so the further north you go, the speed slowly starts to drop and decrease. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're having accidents in this location. Plus it's a 2-lane road. There's not a lot of gray lighting in the area. And so I think we've seen a lot of accidents occurring, especially angled and rear end accidents. And unfortunately, we did have a traffic fatality at Cave Creek Road and Pima. So one of our objectives of this study was to slow traffic down as Pima Road comes to the end of the line at the north. So currently today, like I said, the roadway is a 2-lane road, 1 lane each direction. It's actually operating level service C and D right now, which is pretty fantastic. But as we move into the future, in the year 2035, the corridor starts to fail with all the anticipated growth that's supposed to occur in this area. And by 2050, everything operates at level service F. We held a public meeting our first public meeting. So after, of course, we do any study, we collect a lot of data and we start to analyze the system. But this first public meeting was held on November 11th, and we really wanted to reach out to the residents along this corridor to better understand the transportation issues in the area. Our consultant team, actually one of them lives up there, but I don't live up there as the MAG PM, and so I really rely on the residents to sit down. We roll out roll plot maps, we start talking to them about the issues that they're witnessing on a daily basis, but we also ask them about transportation opportunities that they would like to see implemented in this area. So we had a great turnout. Like I said, we had about 50 residents. This meeting was held at the Town of Carefree Council Chambers. 63 comments were collected on the roll plot. A lot of the issues focused on safety issues at intersections and driveways, adding signals and roundabouts to slow traffic down in the corridor, increasing the number of lanes to manage traffic, and comments about managing the impact of new residential developments, ensuring careful construction phasing. We did ask the residents a couple questions. We asked them to describe the existing corridor in one word, and the size of the word represents the frequency of the comment. Comes top of the list is dangerous, busy, congested, loud. We also asked them your ideal future corridor in one word. Rise to the top is safe, safer, quiet, wider, and calm. So after that first public meeting, the consultant team got to work. We started diving into the alternatives analysis, working with our stakeholders. City of Scottsdale and the Town of Carefree were part of our stakeholder team that helped lead this study. We presented the alternatives, which we'll get into in a second, at June 26th at the Holland Center. Again, we had a really good response from the public. We had 82 residents show up. Over 100 responses came in. Again, we walked them through the same slides I'm going to show you tonight, and I'm going to be able to show you the survey responses that we received for each of the recommended alternatives to see what the public thinks of these. So as I stated earlier, our vision for the road widening follows the City of Scottsdale standards for a rural minor arterial, and continuing the 4-lane cross-section from Happy Valley Road. We are proposing a 4-lane divided road with a shared use path and trail on the east side of the road and a sidewalk on the west. In addition to 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, both north and south, there will also include a bike lane. As this, the jurisdiction, the boundary between the Town of Carefree and City of Scottsdale is just north of Stagecoach Pass, and the right-of-way in that area kind of narrows down. So as we move the corridor to the north, we will have to shrink the corridor a little bit to be able to accommodate this cross-section. So with this 4-lane cross-section in the future, in the year 2035, the corridor operates pretty well, level service B and C. As we move to 2050, it's level service C, which I think is really good for a future projection. So now we're going to transition into the intersection recommendations. We're going to start at Pima Road and Lone Mountain Road. This is an existing signalized intersection. We looked at it in the year 2035 and 2050 as a signal. It operates as level service B and C, and as a multi-lane roundabout, level service A in 2035 and level service F in 2050. Roundabout at this location just would not work with certain movements. We're very heavy, and so it makes more sense to move forward with the signal. Well, keep the signal in place, I should say. It's an existing signal. 92% of the residents voted in favor of the signalized intersection. The intersection of Westland Road, Legend Trail Parkway, again, this is an existing signalized intersection. The signal operates level service B and C in 2035 and 2050, and again, level service A and F in 2035 and 2050 for the roundabout analysis. Residents voted on this one. They provided their comments, and 87% were in favor of the signalized intersection, and it's our recommendation that it stays a signal. Stagecoach Pass intersection. So this is currently a signalized or a stop-controlled intersection on the east and west side, and it's uncontrolled north-south. We looked at a signal for this location and a roundabout. As you can see, in the 2035 and 2050, both concepts operated very well to level service A. We're recommending we go with a traffic signal. The roundabout would take up a little bit more right-of-way, would cost a little bit more money, and we had more stakeholder support for the signalized intersection. Moving north as we go into the town of Carefree, again, this intersection's experienced a lot of safety issues. There's a lot of accidents. We've had a fatality there. We get a lot of boating traffic or recreational vehicles going out to Bartlett Lake in this area. So we analyzed it for a signal and a roundabout. The roundabout outperformed the signal with level service A in 2035 and 2050, and a signal operated level service B and C. Our recommendation is to propose a multi-lane roundabout at this location. I did present to the town council last week, and they were in favor of this recommendation. As you can see, the public voted 53% for signalized intersection and 47% for multi-lane roundabout. I had a question asked of the people attending the meeting, do we know who were residents of Scottsdale or residents of Carefree? And we didn't. We didn't ask that information. We didn't collect that information. We looked at this as a regional facility and wanted to bring the public into comment. So the cost estimate for this entire corridor, including signals and roundabouts, is going to end any additional right-of-way that we need is around $88.7 million. Segment 4 starts 900 feet south of Stagecoach, so that starts in the city of Scottsdale and then transitions into the town of Carefree. We broke that cost out where the town of Carefree would be responsible for $10.4 million and city of Scottsdale $5.8 million for that last section. So the next steps, we're going to work with the town of Carefree and the city of Scottsdale and our consultant group. We're going to finalize the recommendations, and then we're also going to pull together a MAG Arterial Lifecycle Program working group. We'll bring in Patrick Stone and his team to talk about the funding, the regional funding that we have for this project, and figure out a path forward. Chair Miller, that completes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stowe. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments? Commissioner Pankwitz.
I have a question. At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned the east side of the road is going to go to state auction. Can you explain how that works? Does it just go to the highest bidder regardless of the land use they're going to place there? And also, will that development place any of the right-of-way or help with that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission, that's a great question. So it will go to an auction to the highest bidder. They will, and I'm not going to speak for the city itself, but they would be, I'm assuming, required to provide a lot of the infrastructure improvements along the east side of Pima Road and the internal circulation of the development in place.
But we wouldn't know. I know that certain parts of, or certain pieces of state land go to the best and highest use and others go to the highest bidder. This seems to be just highest bidder regardless of what that use is.
I believe the state lands will coordinate with the city of Scottsdale on development plans for the area.
Okay. And
hold on, I'm going to have if you don't mind, I'm going to have David Rakowski follow up with this question.
And I think Nathan probably can dovetail into this a little bit. There is, certain zoning that goes along with every state land auction. So there's a requirement as part of that auction in terms of what can be built and where and how much, and all of that plays into even our study and how we analyze the roadways. So we've taken into account, that potential development and what that looks like based on what it's zoned for. They always have the ability to rezone before it goes to auction, potentially, and all of that then gets taken into account in terms of how much the land is worth. But it's very much driven by what it's zoned for and who is the highest bidder when it comes to parcels like these.
thank you.
Chair Miller and thank you, David. Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be single-family homes at the same density as Legend Trail around Parkway, so it will be similar to that kind of development. And then there is already development review and a development plan that they have been stepped. So when developers come in, they will provide the half-street improvements along that side of the street. So that's already been documented, that when development comes in, they will be required to put half-street improvements along Pima and Stagecoach too on that side. So we'll try and calculate that in and work that into when we go forward with design, that we leave that up so that when development comes in, they put in the remaining pieces of the infrastructure. So we don't have to pay the whole bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, Vice Chair Wilcoxon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Miller, and thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it. I'm wondering, when you went out to the talk to the residents and when you did your analysis, a lot of the presentation focused on the level of service, how efficiently traffic would move. Was there a study of the safety impacts of that level of service? Was there an LOSS run? And what I mean for that is, you know, you've costed out the land use and the cost of improvements to the intersection, but each of those signalized intersections is going to have the risk, the very real risk of fatalities in the future. And were the residents, first of all, were the residents who voted on these things told about that? I'm sure they probably understood it, but did your analysis take into account the fact that there would be a level of safety service that would be traded off with every signalized intersection, regardless of how well it moves traffic?
Hi, Vice Chair Carrie Coxon. So we essentially did a matrix of comparisons in terms of, you know, the types of crashes that we saw at each of these intersections. We didn't actually conduct an actual LOSS for the corridor. It was more looking at the types of crashes, the severity of the crashes, and then a benefit cost for each of these. So we looked at specifically at Stagecoach, and that one was, you know, more of, all right, like we have a speed that starts at 50 miles an hour and then reduces down to 35. And we have a history of left turn crashes there. So like, how can we really make that work? And it comes down to, you know, weighing both cost and safety in that sense. But we didn't actually conduct an actual, you know, level of an actual LOSS, if that answers your question.
Right, yeah, and I didn't think so. I would imagine you would have presented that if you had. So my real question is, if this best case scenario or worst case scenario, whatever your outlook, if we put in 5,000 homes there, I think the trip generation is about 10 trips per house. So you're basing the analysis of how a signal is going to work on the current traffic volume, when the volume is, I'm assuming, going to increase by that much. I think there was a little too much attention put on level of efficiency at moving things and not enough on the actual cost of crashes to Scottsdale and to Cave Creek, not to mention the people in there. That concerns me, but that's really my only question, my only comment.
Thank you. And sir, can you state your name for the minutes for our A-scribers?
Hi, I'm Zach Handy with Kimley Horn.
Thank you. Commissioner Marmon.
Thank you. Good presentation, Mr. Stroh. Could you go to the Lone Mountain slide, please?
There you go.
I'm not sure, I don't understand why the roundabout got negative in all categories.
Well, I think a large percentage of it was so Lone Mountain today is a T intersection, so when the new state lands comes in, it'll create a four-legged intersection. There'll be a lot more traffic entering the intersection, and so just based on the different movements, it would fail from an operations standpoint. And the roundabout would take significantly more right-of-way in this area as well.
Well, I concur with Commissioner's comments about safety. I don't think you evaluated safety enough, that it's a priority in our transportation action plan. And the community vote is very, very important. There's no question about that. But I didn't see any emphasis on safety in this report.
A lot of our recommendations were also based on stakeholder support, so from the city of Scottsdale itself. So this was an existing signal out there today, and so the recommendation was to keep it the same moving forward in the future. It outweighed the impacts of a potential roundabout at that location.
Could you go to the stagecoach slide, please?
Yes.
As you mentioned, we have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit drop.
So I do believe
we need some traffic calming in there, it would seem.
Yeah, and that's why we looked at the different, like the roundabout concept at Cave Creek Road to help slow people down. So it transitions, I think, at this point from like 45 miles an hour and then goes to 35 in this area. There's also different minor improvements we're recommending to help slow traffic down. Lots of, like for the stop-controlled intersections, having flashing reds or flashing stop signs in the area. But yeah, again, this recommendation is based on this also Stagecoach Pass was also passed a signal warrant analysis by the city of Scottsdale, I think in 2016 and 2023.
What kind of traffic calming would you put in to slow this down? Or what would you recommend?
Maybe I can jump in here. Madam Chair, Commissioner. So there's a couple things. So number one, the speed limit through this area is 50 miles an hour. That will drop to 45 with future designs. That's typical of everything that's happening to the south. So that's one component of it. The sheer completing a complete street brings with it safety enhancements, pedestrians, bicyclists. Right now, it's a very rural roadway, and there's very much some safety components that are built into your typical complete street. There's also ADA components and whatnot. One of the big things, what we see with some of the intersections in terms of how crashes occur and whatnot is a lot in relation to, do you have adequate turn lanes? Do you have turn lanes? All of the typical intersection components which are missing out there today. So those are the types of things that are also taken into account when you look back and forth. You know, when you look at these slides, it looks like, well, this is negative. It's negative. It's the X is a disadvantage when compared to a signal. It could be very small, it could be much larger, but it's not, you know, you can't look at it like, well, this is a negative component of that alternative. It's just that when you compare them, that one has a disadvantage compared to the other. I will say that throughout the entire corridor, there's other things that we have included in the study as recommendations, being left turn refuge areas and dedicated left turn lanes at certain areas, whereas people are kind of turning out freely into the road today. All of those different improvements change how the actual corridor functions overall, creates better driver awareness, better expectation for drivers. So when we add median islands and there's a driveway, there's access control that comes along with that. And those components all play into the overall safety of the corridor as well as safety of the intersections, because we do have some control that happens at the intersections when it comes to access control and whatnot. It just becomes more familiar for people when you do the full build out and make it into a complete street or a complete intersection in these cases.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Wilcoxon, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, thanks again. I just occurred to me looking at your slides and Commissioner Marmon's questions. I work for ADOT. I hired Kimley Horn to do our safety plan. We hired Kimley Horn to do our intersection control evaluation plan. You at Kimley Horn will know that when you add more capacity and when you clean the roads up, make them straight, wider, put a median in the middle, one thing you're going to increase is speed. I just want to make sure that that's taken into consideration. I know we keep talking about stepping the speed limit down, and that's probably going to continue, but speed limits really don't dictate how people are going to drive. So to Commissioner Marmon's question, I would caution the assumptions that this will make the road safer. To my earlier comments, the signals are certainly not going to be a safety feature. They're certainly not going to be a traffic calming feature. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear and that everyone is clear. When you did your analysis of a roundabout, what you've got pictured there is a turbo roundabout, not a multi-lane roundabout. I mean, that's a form of multi-lane, but there's a difference between a turbo roundabout and a regular roundabout. A regular roundabout operates differently. And I know this because Kimley Horn's own expert told me so. So I just want to make sure that when you did your analysis for level of service, you weren't comparing a turbo roundabout, which is probably not appropriate for this area, with a regular roundabout, or in place of a regular roundabout. Do you know what type of roundabout you used in your analysis?
Vice Chair Wilcoxon, we actually did have a roundabout expert help us out with this corridor study out of Colorado, and I believe they did use a multi-lane roundabout, not a turbo roundabout, for the analysis.
Your slide is just off.
Yeah, well, the concept shown here, I believe they talked about this being more of a buffer design. We have literature on that as well. I believe it's becoming more commonplace, like as a modern roundabout feature. We can definitely send you more information on that. I don't personally have all the information on that, but I believe this was not intended to be a turbo roundabout.
Okay, and I work with Kimley Horn, and your Colorado expert is probably on our ICE committee and is probably giving us the same information. So I'm concerned that safety and speed in this case, to Commissioner Marmon's point, has not been considered, and that we're asking the wrong questions. That's all I have.
Commissioner Kafdile.
I'm going to ask much less technical questions than my previous two commissioner colleagues, although I echo all their concerns about safety. That's normally my primary concern. On slide 13, there was a lot of initialisms used, and I didn't recognize all those initialisms, and I was just wondering if you could kind of go through what those are. Like, I know, like SUP would be a shared use path, but RW is that right away. What's SWK?
Commissioner, yeah, so if I go from left to right here, we've got right-of-way, R/W. The SWK is the sidewalk. In this case, the typical setup has been an 8-foot sidewalk on the west side. When we get to the other side, we've got a shared use path. That's typically been 10 feet, and that's consistent throughout the corridor. And then we have PAE, which is actually that public access easement that is right there. I think I've caught them all. Is it?
Yeah, everything else is pretty self-explanatory. A question on sidewalk versus shared use path. So is it just the width of it? So a sidewalk is 8 feet and a shared use path is 10 feet?
I'll be happy to take one. Thank you, Chair Miller and Commissioner Kafdile. Throughout this entire corridor, but yes, it's just width, but throughout this entire corridor, on the west side is a sidewalk or our standard 6-foot sidewalk, and then on the east side is going to be our standard multi-use path, so about 10 to 12 feet. Then we will stripe the multi-use path so that we see two different directions being used for that. But that's going to be consistent throughout the whole corridor that we're doing, sidewalk on one side and multi-use path on the other.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair Miller. In terms of the resident feedback that you received, so I'm less familiar with this part of town, but looking at your map, it looks like it's not particularly inhabited. So are there many residents living right in that corridor, or who were the people that were, and how does that relate to these 5,000 homes bringing 10 to 15,000 new residents? How is that comparison number-wise?
Yeah, so you can see on the map, on the west side, it's pretty well developed. There's communities up from Stagecoach Pass all the way down. There is a development on the east side you can see that's out there currently today. A lot of the residents were very surprised about the number of homes coming in. They thought it was part of the Scottsdale Preserve out here, to be quite honest with you. So they were more in shock about the amount of growth occurring than us widening the roadway. They were absolutely in support of us adding additional lanes and adding the roundabout at Cave Creek Road and the signals at the other intersections. Very positive feedback.
Okay. Well, and I would just echo the safety concerns of other commissioners and, keeping in mind those future residents as well. And,
Absolutely.
Hopefully families and people that would, safety be top of mind for them, for their neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Chair Miller and Transportation Commission, I'd like to just comment for a second on that the task that we gave Kimley Horn and MAG was to evaluate widening of the roadway. It's been on the books to widen this to 4 lanes for quite a while now and get us as a decent cost estimate and look at what kind of right-of-way acquisition and drainage improvements we might need, as well as what it would be as an impact on the level of service. We definitely have heard your emphasis on safety, and we'll make sure that we address that and bring that to this project moving forward. This is just a PA and a cost estimate, so we will look to give a heightened awareness to safety on this corridor and see how we can improve that in the design moving forward.
Thank you. I have a few questions. So remind me how long this corridor is?
4.1 miles.
4 miles with 10 potentially signalized intersections.
No, Madam Chair, so currently today, there's only 2 signalized intersections. The rest of them are just access to communities, so stop controlled. And then we're going to recommend the roundabout at Cave Creek Road and Stagecoach Pass. So there'll be 4 intersections in the future that are not stop controlled. So all the other ones, only the ones highlighted in bold will be either a signal or a roundabout.
Okay, so
Chairman,
not all the little round circles.
The only 2 that are getting added are Stagecoach and Cave Creek.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how many homes do you think will be directly impacted as far as their property right-of-way when you design this?
So the widening of Pima Road will be going to the east, so will not impact any of the residents on the west side of the road that are there today. I think and my team can correct me on this, but the roundabout at Cave Creek Road, we will take a little bit of right-of-way in the southeast corner, but we're not taking any homes or anything, just a little bit of additional right-of-way.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, so there will be spots of right-of-way, mostly around intersections.
Okay.
Wherever we widen an intersection, there's typically some type of right-of-way that will need to be acquired. The way that the roadway is setting up in terms of the design right now, it's largely shifted a little bit further to the east, and that is for construction phasing and just, making sure that we have room for people to actually, still use Pima Road while we're out there building additional lane widths. Largely, the right-of-way will be in and around those intersections, but it's kind of few and far between on the west side in terms of actual impact. But as Tim noted, that depending on the makeup of the Cave Creek roundabout, there was some impacts on that southeast corner. And, just in terms of getting trails in and those types of things that come with the community, it would be planned in on the east side with that development anyway.
Tell me about your outreach efforts. You described how many people came to your meeting, but how many people did you reach out to, and how did you do that?
That's a great question, Madam Chair. So, of course, we did the typical standard social media outreach, email blasts, but we also mailed postcards. I think we mailed around 8,000 postcards to folks along this corridor. We really wanted to try to get there.
How far did you?
I believe a mile on both sides, right? Yeah, a mile on both sides. But then we also worked, like I said, with the town of Carefree and others to really try to send it out, emails, social media. We did newspaper ads, and I think 3 different newspapers. So we try to really blanket the area to get as much involvement as possible.
Now, when you talked about the percentage of people who supported a signalized intersection versus a roundabout, though, you were actually talking about the people who responded. So you had 100 responses, so basically you're talking 78 people versus 22 people, not a necessarily statistically valid survey.
Correct, Madam Chair, yeah. So, yeah, we like I said, we extended the invitation to the residents to come and attend and participate. We had an online interactive comment map for folks that were not physically able to attend our meetings. They could do so online. We had surveys on there. They were able to send us emails. So, yeah, we did I thought we did a pretty good job of blanketing the area to get the most public impact as possible, or most feedback as possible.
Okay. As a friend of mine once had in his office, the world belongs to those who show up. So, Commissioner Penkwitz.
I have a follow-up question for staff. Is this a section of Scottsdale that's more the dark sky?
Thank you, Chair Miller and Commissioner Pinkwitz. We don't have an official dark sky policy, but yes, I guess this would fall under the community that is looking for us to adhere to dark sky as much as possible. So in this design, as we've done in more southern sections of this corridor, we would limit streetlights to just the intersections themselves, or roundabouts if they were hypothetically done, but that's down to Carefree.
Can you go back to the cross-section, the street cross-section?
This one.
I guess I have a concern about bike lanes that are not protected in a portion of the city that's relatively dark, and I've driven on those portions of the city. It's even dark to drive in. I can't even imagine biking, and I am wondering if there is an opportunity to maybe just put the bike lanes along the sidewalk and use the space along the sidewalk so that bikers are actually away from traffic.
Residents do have an opportunity to use the shared use path as well, which gets them out of the roadway itself.
Yeah, it's just, when you have the opportunity to use one or the other, and then you have people like myself, I would not use the bike lane. I would probably use the trail. But we know that the average person that gets killed on a crash tends to be a male of a certain age who thinks that they can brave everything. And I have a safety concern regarding that. And I've even seen people use the bike lanes for running sometimes because they don't ask me why, but they prefer it for their knees or whatever. And it just seems like an opportunity to actually provide more safety by separating the two and just not even allowing for a bike path. But that's just my personal preference, and I know that not all people who bike share that. But when we have conditions that are that dark, and when we know that nationally most people tend to get hit at night, it's kind of a concern.
Yeah, this area is challenging. So you have agencies that want to keep the area dark, right, and not install a lot of signals, but then you have a lot of accidents potentially because of lack of lighting, right? And then you have a lot of support in this area for the pack bike riding, like on the weekends. They go up and down this corridor. So I know there's a big demand and a lot of asking for bike lanes in this area. I know the shared use path is fantastic. There's a lot of public support for that as well. So it's kind of how do we balance all of this, right? It makes it challenging, to say the least. But I thank you for your comments on that. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, gentlemen, very much for your presentation and for all of your answers to our questions. We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having us here tonight. Appreciate it.
Next up is Scottsdale signaling system, left turn signals and red light timing. John Huang, Senior Manager, Traffic Engineer.
Chair Miller, Vice Chair Wilcoxon, Commissioners, thank you for having me. Tonight's presentation is a continuation of the conversation we had several months ago in the Traffic Management Center, the essential functions and the signal system that we have. I'm going to start out with the video.
Scottsdale's Traffic Management Center, or TMC, launched in 1993 with just one camera to help ease traffic during the Phoenix Open. Today, it's a cutting-edge operation managing traffic at over 300 intersections and more than 14,000 streetlights across the city. Staffed by traffic engineers, analysts, and technicians, the TMC's essential functions include live traffic monitoring, signal timing, incident response, managing roadway restrictions, coordinating special events, and delivering real-time traveler info. With 226 miles of fiber optics and over 200 video detection systems, the TMC makes real-time adjustments to minimize traffic congestion. Signal timing is updated based on thorough analysis and advanced modeling tools, tailored to each intersection's traffic volumes and roadway design, ensuring safe and efficient operations. Signal timing is adjusted daily to respond to changing traffic patterns, construction, and big events. Smart, responsive, and ready, Scottsdale's TMC keeps your commute safer, faster, and more efficient.
Okay. That's a good segue of what I'm kind of presenting. It's about the left-hand signals, the lead lag, and the signals change clearance interval. So I'll start out with, so that's basically what we're going to talk about, the signal basics, the lead lag operations, the surrounding agency comparison, the signal clearance times, and also the staff recommendation at the end. Start out with a very basic stuff. This is what all the drivers will see at the traffic signal that we have. On the left is an option of permissive protected signal indications, and on the right is a protected only. I'm going to go over more in details with those. So this is just a quick look. If we were going to have the leading left-hand arrow sequence, you're going to see, so from top to right to the bottom, and to the right, you're going to see the left-hand arrow is going to be on first if it's leading. And if it's leading through, you're going to see the green bars starting out first. And then if it's a lagging, you're going to see the through starting out first, and then the lagging, the left-hand arrow is going to be at the end. All of that is this. Just want to confuse you guys a little bit, but if it's leading, we're just going to have the left-hand arrow starting and if it's lagging, the left-hand arrow is going to be at the end. So basically, 3 different left-hand operations. We have the permitted, which is very efficient, but it's going to require drivers to actually pick the gap to see if, against the approaching traffic. The protected in the middle is a very safe movement, but it's kind of creates a lot of delay at the intersection. Oh, and then the last one is a combination of the protected permissive, which is going to have both. It's a compromise of safety and efficiency. So the NCHIP is the National Cooperative Highway Research published. 284 kind of indicated that since 2003, the majority, 80%, more than 80% of the agencies around the nation tend to use. If they have the permissive protected, they tend to be leading with those movements. And then we have about 10% lagging, and then 6% of the lead lag, which is depends on the operations. Fast forward to today, the majority of it is still like that. It's going to be a big number still lead at most of the intersection. We also look at different research reports and all of that mentioned above. But at the end, the similar crash rates for leading and lagging, we don't see the big difference. It's not really a statistical evidence of difference if it's leading or lagging. It depends on drivers' behavior. So consideration based on the multiple factors, such as safety, efficiency, consistency, and also the resources. This is a comparison of the agency around us. We have 10 agencies reported back what they're doing. So I'm kind of focused on the top 3 lead at all directions. So starting out with Scottsdale, we have more than 300 signals. We have 5% leading. Going across, Chandler has about 30%. Gilbert recently changed 5 years ago or 7 years ago. They have a lot of lagging, but they recently changed to more than 95% leading. McDodd is 100%. Mesa is about 90%. Peoria about 50%. Phoenix is, I think it's 85%. Surprise is 91%. Tempe is about 10%. And then go down to lagging all directions. We have about 13% going across. Phoenix is about 10%. Lead lag all directions is a combination of lead and lag, depends on the movement. We have about 10%. Mesa has we have about 7%. Mesa has about 10%. And I want to go down to the mixed left-hand operation. It's the green highlighted area. It's kind of consistent with what a lot of agencies are doing. Scottsdale has about 37%. Chandler, very similar, 38%. Glendale is 59%. Peoria is at 35%. And Tempe is about 36%. So that's a quick comparison of what the other agencies are doing. I think a few questions came up. One of the questions came up, why don't we just stick with lagging or leading? And so this one, if you're looking at that, it looks like there's a lot of, I have a video too, but I just quickly go over this. A lot of left-hander blocking the through lane. And if we were gonna lag the left-hand lane, that means we're gonna block all the through lanes, all the through traffic. So there's a video coming up. I'll quickly, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse. So this is a traffic signal system that we have. On the right is our CCTV system. They're actually concurrently, I'm gonna press play and it'll concurrent. So I'll quickly go over this direction is northbound. It's gonna show it, but I'll just quick, southbound, eastbound, westbound. And we wanna focus on this movement right here. There's no audio though. As you can see, traffic is actually loading up in this area. And it's just like the sketch before, it's actually blocking the through lanes. And in this situation, if we're gonna lag, we can actually block out the through movement. So at this location, this is at Mountain View and 90th Street. We lead at this location. We flush all the left-hand traffic volumes out, clearing up for the through movement in this area right here. So that's one of the reasons why we don't use lagging at all locations. Okay, very similarly, well, this is just a justification of why we lead. And very similar to what we just discussed, that it's gonna provide additional capacity. The impacts is always gonna be the geometries of the lanes, the traffic volume, the cycle length, the driver's behavior. So leading is most of the time is gonna optimize the operation at most cases. So this one is actually the opposite of what we just showed. So if we were to lead at this location, you see how over here, the left-hand arrow is on, but there's no traffic because the people that wanted to make a left is being blocked by the through. So in this situation, we should lag this location, and there's a video describing that. So this location is at Indian School and 68. I think you guys are very familiar with this. We have a few projects at this location. So same thing on the left is the traffic signal system that we have. CCTV describing the same thing that we do in here, out on the video. And you have description, northbound, southbound, east, west. I think it's running. For this video, we want to focus on this one right here. There's high through traffic volume blocking the left-hand lane. So at this location, we lag the left-hand lane. We clear the through traffic out. See, there's the left-handers are coming in. This is actually the same thing. It's right now it's showing green arrows. That means that through the north-south through movements are on. And it's turning yellow. And now the left turn is on, as these people here. So that's kind of the reason why we don't just do all lead or all lag. So for the lagging operation, a lot of these situations kind of apply for the freeway traffic interchange because of the limited storage area, the spacing of the signals, and also, I think that's, yeah. So the combination of leading and lagging provides better optimization for the entire corridor. Depends on the time of day. So I think we there was the slide that mentioned about yellow trap. I want to save this so we can talk about it. So this one right here is kind of sequential. So there's a person right here that in the left-hand area, they left, actually, this is the detection area right here, but they left the detection area, assuming that they're gonna get the left-hand arrow activated, which is not true. So they keep on waiting, more traffic is coming, but because they left the area, right, it's not activated. This one, there's a lot of left-hand traffic demand, so the arrow is activated. So they just sit here and wait. Eventually, his whole area right here being stopped. So that person right there feel trapped or being trapped because traffic keep on coming at them. And I guess when you get nervous, you just kind of make a left turn lane in front of a lot of vehicles, and that's what happened. We have a crash. The safe way to actually solve the left turn trap is this one right here. So once we have the lagging arrow, we're gonna have to activate both left turn movements, regardless if there's any traffic in this area or not, as you can see right here. So if there's traffic demand here, this left turn arrow is gonna be activated, but this one is not. But to be safe, we have to activate both. It's safe, but it's not as efficient. So in summary, leading or lagging is not a one-size-fits-all. We're trying to be consistent within the city and also the agencies around us. So if the traffic engineers have the flexibility, pick and choose which operation, I think is probably the best option for us. So we know based on thorough analysis, optimal throughput and safety and available resources. I think if we have that flexibility, the option of doing that, we're able to improve traffic operations the entire city. So that's one topic. We're gonna move on to the next one, dilemma zone, or now they call it decision zone. The yellow area is what we're gonna focus on. So if you're not familiar, if you're approaching the intersection, if the light is turning yellow, in this area right here, the proper goal, you should have enough time to actually make it through the intersection. The yellow area is the area that people's gonna go, should I stop, kind of thing. And I'll have more information on this one. Look at this right here, the yellow area. This is the beginning zone, and this is actually the end. And there's more information about that. So we have roughly about 5.5 seconds from the beginning of the zone for the drivers actually cross. If you're at the end, so you have less, of course, because you're closer to the intersection, it's gonna be less time. It's about 2.5 seconds. And this is all based on the posted speed limit, 35, 40, and so on. So go back to the signal change, clearance interval. We have two parameters right here, the yellow change and also the red change. If we have too much time or too little time, we're gonna go back to that dilemma zone that we discussed. People don't have enough time to actually safely cross the intersection, and potentially crashes may occur. And all of this is going to depend on, because the decision zone is going to be based on drivers' behavior, drivers' action, drivers' perception, reaction, and all of that. So the zones is going to be different, depends on who the drivers are. Similarly, with the red clearance, if we have too short of a red clearance, it's a potential conflict with the other phase. If we have too long, it'll be a waste of time at the intersection. And it all depends, again, how big your vehicle is, how long, a passenger car versus a trailer. So according to the MUTCD, based on the speed, 25 miles per hour, the yellow time should be about 3 seconds. 30 should be about 3.2. 35 is about 3.6, and so on. This is a comparison, what we have in Scottsdale. This location is at Scottsdale and Frank Lloyd Wright. If you look at this, that purple box right here, the yellow time, let's just look because the through posted at 45 miles per hour. The left turn lanes are not going that high, so let's just focus on the through, which is number 2, 4, 6, and 8. If you look down, we have about 4.7 seconds for the yellow time. If you want, at 45 miles per hour. Let me go back to this one right here. At 45 miles per hour, MUTCD recommended that we should have minimum of 4.3, and we actually meet or exceed at 4.7 at this location. So look at the other agencies' standard of practice. The documents that we kind of reference is the ITE guidelines, the signal timing manual in 2015, the Aztec white paper. Currently, there are 2 agencies piloting increase in yellow time. So whatever that the MUTCD recommended, they trying to increase more, but they still piloting projects. And there'll be one agencies can be done in 2026, the other one is 2028. There's a study in California found increasing clearance interval greater than the ITE guidelines would increase in the number of angle collisions, which is one of the most severe collision types. The overall collisions gonna slightly decrease, but it's probably because of the decrease in rear-end collision, which is the least severe collision types. So the guidelines that I kind of mentioned is that one right there, the ITE guidelines, and also the Aztec white paper. And about 5 years ago, all of the agencies, I think we have 13 agencies kind of involved in this white paper, provided the formulas, the way that they come up with the yellow and the red times, also the pedestrians time. So we are actually kind of rely on and leverage the technology. This is, I think, some of the, it was presented before, but I'm gonna kind of present it again here. It's the technology that we're able to extend in real time for pedestrians and also vehicles. The video I'm gonna show, the next 2 is gonna be for bicyclists. As you can see, there's no audios, but you see there's a lot of activities, pedestrians and bicyclists. When they are in the box right here, the boxes, they light up, extending the green for the bicyclists and pedestrians. That's one video, and another one is for the platoon of the bicyclists. Focus on this one right here. When the light is green, there's a lot of pedestrians or bicyclists going through. But once they're in the box, you're gonna see it's even the vehicles, it doesn't light up the box. Only the bicyclists light up the box. See, extending the time until the last bicyclist is out of the box. it'll turn off. So that's the technology that we are testing. So instead of the traditional adding 1 or 2 seconds to the yellow time, we can have something like this, and it's only a needed kind of on needed basis. If they're bicyclists, we're gonna detect, we're gonna extend. We're gonna give them enough time to actually go through the intersection. Very similarly, we have a video. It's still kind of like a beta testing, but we talked about the dilemma zone right here. This is the dilemma zone, detection zone that we have. So if there's vehicle over here, we're gonna extend the green light for that movement. I'm gonna run the video. As you can see right here, there's a few vehicles are going through that. And the goal is trying to extend the time when people are there, not every cycle of the traffic signal. It's a lot of movement. There's a lot of information on here, but that's just see if there's no vehicle there, it's not detecting it. So that's what we're testing. And so far, so good, but eventually we'll deploy some of them at the high crash intersections that we have in Scottsdale. Staff recommendation. So the city of Scottsdale currently meet or exceed the minimum yellow change, and our clearance times are more conservative and consistent with the standard practice and requirements. We're gonna try to leverage the ITS technologies and pilot projects to provide green time extension to increase intersection safety. That's all I have. I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions? We'll start with Commissioner Kofteil.
Thank you. As usual, your presentation is extremely informative. I have a few different questions. Mostly it's about the yellow lights. So as somebody who wasn't born in the Valley, I moved here when in my 20s. The main thing I noticed about Phoenix, the Phoenix area, is that the yellow lights seemed really long to me. And so I got really used to, you know, when I came from, where I came from, if I saw a yellow light, I would immediately start slowing down because I knew I wasn't gonna have much time. Here, when I moved here and I saw a yellow light, I would either speed up or continue at my normal speed because I knew how long our intersections, how long I would have for that yellow. And so it makes me have a couple of thoughts. You know, I'm wondering how we compare, like you said, we meet or exceed the guidelines. How does Scottsdale compared to like the rest of the country, especially because Scottsdale is such a tourist destination that we would have a lot of people coming from other locations that might not have yellow lights as long as ours, and they might have, you know, their behaviors might change, you know, more than what they would expect from somebody who was here, somebody who spent a lot of time here. I was wondering how we compare to other municipalities within the Valley. Like you know, when I first moved here, I first moved to Mesa, and the yellow lights in Mesa seemed like they lasted for 30 seconds. You know, they seem like they lasted less here, but you know, that might have just been because I got used to how long the lights were by the time I moved to Scottsdale. And then the other thing I would say is just a lot of the comments that I heard from our previous presentation was really concentrated on level of service efficiency of the intersection. And I know this department is also really focused on safety, but, you know, I would look for what is the most safe way rather than the most efficient way to move people through here. It's just kind of hearing the like, oh yeah, we'll waste a, you know, because 4.2 seconds versus 4.7 seconds for a yellow might mean we waste a bunch of time, you know, in this intersection, there'll just be wasted time, but if that's if a longer red light clearing will result in a safer overall intersection, I think that trade-off, that half second is probably worth it. And so I just wanted to mention that as well. But I guess my main, like I said, my main question is how do we compare to other areas of the country as far as our yellow lights are concerned, and how do we compare to other municipalities in the valley for the yellows?
Chair Miller, Commissioner Cufftile, those are very good questions. So let's start out with the agency, the surrounding agencies. The white paper that I showed, a lot of us, I think a lot of agencies are doing very similar things. I have the whole report of this if you want to take a look at it, but this is actually a comparison. We have formulas. If you do the math, the numbers are very similar, except for the two agencies that I mentioned that they piloting increasing the yellow time because they were not doing enough. So that's why they're increasing it. So they're still testing. So that's for the agency, surrounding agencies, the valley comparison. As far as nationwide, we have not done that, look into that. But if you're gonna use this document right here, the ITE guidelines and also the MUTCD, I would assume that the other agencies are doing the same thing. I would say very similar to what everybody else is doing in the nation. You want me to go back? I think you kind of mentioned about the 4 seconds. This slide has kind of like, if we have too little, it's not safe. If we have too much, people kind of take advantage of it, and it's inefficient and all of that. So that's kind of what you mentioned. What is the best, right? And the answer is the best is probably depends on each driver. But as far as we meet or exceed the requirement, I think is probably good. And what was another question do you have? I think.
That was the main question.
Okay, yeah.
That was the main questions, and I think I heard you say that the length, the way that we have with our modern is the amount of time or lagging and leading intervals that does change throughout the day depending. So like maybe there's a lot of traffic moving north at the start of the day, and then there's a lot of traffic moving south at the end of the day, and so our leading lagging will switch. In the morning, it might be leading with then a lagging, and then a lagging with a leading going the other direction or something like that. Was that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
It depends on the corridor.
Okay. And then the first presentation that you had about why we would want a leading there, I just looking at the video, you said, see, look, this starts to get backed up. Yeah, this one here, where you said this starts to get backed up, but when I was watching the video, there was no other drivers showed up, so like nobody ended up getting blocked or anything like that. Your point was made. I just noticed that like it didn't really matter whether it was leading or lagging because nobody got blocked, and so nobody was inconvenienced, regardless of whether that was leading or lagging at that one. And so.
Yeah, that was just one location, but we have a busier location area. That is kind of show exactly that, but at least we got our points across.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Marmon?
Thank you. Good presentation. Excuse me. I have a couple of questions. This slide right here, can we go to the lagging slide, the one right after it, please? Right there. No, go back one. At what point do you say we need to restripe or change that median to get more capacity out there? Where that left turn is overflowing.
Chair Miller, Commissioner Marmon, I think that's a very good question. So when, I think one of the slides I mentioned about resources, what's the best way, what's the cheapest way to actually solve the problem? We would probably go with the operation. How can we actually move traffic without modifying the median, because it's that option normally costs a lot more. So that is an option, but it's probably number 2 or number 3 options actually to do widening. But in some area we have to do it because we have tried the operational solution, but it doesn't work. For example, Hayden, and some locations that we actually widened the 2-lane, we extended the left turn lane. Same thing with Shea widening that was just recently completed. So we always look for the operational option first and then try on and move on to the next options.
Okay, thank you. Could you go to the yellow trap slide, please? Okay, the car in question was on the detector and then moved off. Why doesn't the detector remember that there was a car there and go through the whole cycle knowing there was a car there? Instead of forgetting.
Yeah, Chair Miller, Commissioner Marmon, that's a very good question, and it's going to go back to efficiency. Normally, we have an option to lock a driver if they pass through. But then let's just say if we lock it and that person was able to actually make a left through a permissive phase. So we are holding the left turn arrow for a few seconds for nobody. So we have the option at some location, we do lock it, but most of the time, if the driver left the detection zone for about 2 or 3 seconds, that it deactivate the detection area.
Okay.
So yeah, it's about efficiency that we're trying to do.
Thank you. I guess my last question is, modeling the system. Let's say there was an accident somewhere blocking 2 lanes. Do you have a way of modeling the overflow and adjusting signals in real time to keep the traffic moving?
Yes, we do. I'm not sure if you were at the TMC several months ago. We demonstrate that. We actually, if there's an incident, we can actually extend. If traffic is backing up a quarter of a mile or longer, we can actually extend it for as long as you want, like 3 minutes. I've done 3 minutes before. So to actually get rid of the backup and not to create the secondary crashes. So things like that, we could do it in real time.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kafta.
Just a follow-up to Commissioner Marmon's comment. As one of those male cyclists who feel more comfortable in riding in the road, I would like it if they all got locked, because there are times where I have to wait. When I want to make a left turn, I have to wait till traffic clears or slows down enough for me to get into that turn lane, and then I don't trigger the light. And so, but maybe there is somebody sitting in the intersection who's able to then clear it, and then I'm stuck waiting another cycle before I can actually get through on my bicycle. So I like the idea of locking it if somebody was in there. So. That's all. Thank you.
That's a good point. We can certainly do that, and we'll work with you on which location corridors that you see, we normally try to focus on the high bicyclist corridor. We can easily do that.
Vice Chair Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair Miller. And thanks, John, for the presentation. I always learn a lot when I hear about signals. I don't work in that area that often. I did have 2 comments and 3 questions. Hopefully they'll be quick. First of all, I support the approach of not selecting leading or lagging, but using whichever version meets conditions locally the best. I like what you're doing, so that's good. Second one, when you're looking at the literature, I think there was a study that was written by one of the former heads of Scottsdale traffic, Paul Basha, that actually went over the safety benefits of I think leading versus lagging, and it had to do with severity of crashes. So I don't remember it other than there might have been some more difference in severity. But my questions have to do with, for the dilemma zone that you talked about, I know that some red light camera providers can actually, or have a system now that they can actually, when they detect a vehicle that is in the dilemma zone that is not going to stop, they will hold the green on all the other approaches, put the intersection in red, and then issue a citation to that red light runner without allowing the conflict. Have we done anything with that kind of technology? I know you're not here to talk about red light cameras, but are you, first of all, you're familiar with it, and second of all, have we ever considered experimenting with that?
So red light camera, PD is in charge of that. So we don't venture into that area. But we can always discuss with that. This is very similar to what I'm presenting here, that detection zone. We actually if somebody's in this zone and we know that they're not gonna stop, we're gonna extend the green for them to actually safely getting through the intersection and hold the other directions. Very similar approach that we are testing it here. So we are looking at, I was thinking that you can ask this question, but I may as well throw it out there. So when I mentioned the ITS technology, we don't just look at one. So there's video detection system, there's LiDAR detection system, there's also infrared thermal imaging detection system. So we're looking at all of those technologies and see what's the best for us, and then we implement it.
Sure, and I appreciate that, and I would just say that while this is great that you have that ability, you're kind of rewarding somebody who is breaking the law by giving them more green time. And while I support that, I mean, I don't support that. I support a system that penalizes people who take advantage, because people do learn pretty quickly that, oh, this intersection, I can push the yellow, or I can push the green, or whatever, based on past experience. I mean, we know that is happening. So I guess I would just suggest that you look at the dilemma zone red light cameras, or red light camera systems, which you're halfway there. The other question I had, one of the other questions was, when you talked about the bicycle extension, that was the first time I'd seen that, and that was pretty impressive. That's an example of adaptive signal control, is that correct?
Yes, that's.
How many locations do we have this set up at, and are they standard, or are we just testing?
So right now, we only have one, but we have just recently installed 4 of these systems. The one location that we have currently is Drinkwater and Fifth.
Okay.
But we kind of keep on expanding.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And then the final question I have is, again, the way you're managing traffic, there is, of course, a safety benefit, but there's also an air quality benefit. And I wonder if anyone in the city has, or in the MAG region, has tried to capture the air quality benefits of more active traffic control and as a potential source of additional funding or a potential source of additional accolades for the city.
Yes, that's a very good question. Normally, every year, we have 2 TSOP projects with MAG, and not just the air quality, we're looking at the delay, the congestion. We have the formulas actually to convert it into the dollars, how much we save, like millions of dollars if we're able to get people through the intersection. Yeah, so we have that information also,
Okay.
working with MAG.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Again, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for the work. I think we support all of the implementation and the oversight and the level of technical expertise that your staff brings to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Next up, functional classification changes and amendment to the Transportation Action Plan.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner, and Chair Miller and Transportation Commission. Yes, I will be talking about functional classification changes to our map and then an amendment to the Transportation Action Plan. So we have 2 proposed functional classification changes to the functional classification map that we have in the Transportation Action Plan. One that was presented last month that is in the neighborhood between Shea and Mountain View, and the other one over in the Air Park area. So just as another background for the Transportation Action Plan, aligned with the Scottsdale General Plan of 2035, it defines the functional classification map, which was approved by this body as well as City Council in 2022 with updates and changes to the functional classification map. We usually do a comprehensive review of the functional classification map whenever we bring the overall transportation master plan or action plan forward. This is going to be making several minor amendments or changes to that as it stands. Functional classification map, it defines the hierarchy or intended purpose of all of our roadways or all of our major roadways. The categories guide design standards and right-of-way needs. So the general purpose is that, as MAG showed earlier in the previous presentation, that we have our standards in our design standards manual. Those directly relate to the functional classification map. So as we define these roadways as an arterial or a collector or local, they directly relate back to what our standard cross sections are, as well as the right-of-way that we need in order to build those roadways. The proposed amendments is 78th Street, Shea Boulevard to Mountain View Road as a minor collector, going from a minor collector to a local road. Sam Taylor, our principal traffic engineer, presented on the neighborhood submitting a petition for that, and we're looking to make a formal recommendation to council to make that functional classification change. And then additionally, we have Chauncey Lane over in the Air Park between Scottsdale Road and future Miller Road, changing that from a local road to a minor collector. So 70th Street reclassification from a minor collector to a local. It was a resident petition. Persistent speeding concerns were the direct reason for this change. Traffic analysis and a neighborhood meeting showed support for this change, that we would like to make a change to the speed limit and then also create more traffic calming along this corridor. So look to make this change to a local and then make that road more adhere to local conditions. Here's the map again shown last month, but again, that 78th Street coming down from Shea to Mountain View would drop off as that yellow line as a minor collector, turn into a local road, and then drop the speed limit down to 25 miles an hour. Then Chauncey Lane from Scottsdale Road to Miller Road, requested from a local to a minor collector, identified as a critical connection supporting airport access. On the map, you can see the dashed lines being all the projected or future roads that will be developed as development comes in this area. This Miller Road will be built out as development comes in, and then Chauncey would connect Miller over to Scottsdale Road, where we already have an existing roundabout at, I'm blanking on the roadway there, I think it's 76th. 76th has an existing roundabout, and then over at Scottsdale has an existing signal. So having that connection go through to Miller and provide an additional connection. The proposal of that roadway supports a minor collector roadway and supports the function of that. Most importantly, relieves Princess Boulevard as development grows throughout this area. So we'll have Mayo and Princess taking the brunt of the traffic off of Miller if we do not provide Chauncey as a minor collector through this area. So that would be to make that official as a minor collector in the functional classification. Next steps is take Transportation Commission's recommendation right here, and then a City Council report to City Council for formal adoption of the amendments to the Transportation Action Plan, and then publish updated maps and tables on the city website. So any questions or comments on the proposed action?
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Pankowitz?
So you mentioned 78th Street came from a neighborhood petition. Where did Chauncey Lane, the recommended change, come from?
Staff's review of the area. We have a very undeveloped area up here where there's a lot of proposed roads. As we are working with private development and as we're working on this area, we saw a condition in our functional classification that we needed to fix, which was identifying this as a minor collector that would connect to Miller.
Okay. My concern is 78th Street condition probably exists along a lot of streets in Scottsdale, and I'm just concerned that, and I respect the neighbors for coming together and asking for this. My concern is how are we spreading the equity to all residents in Scottsdale? So people that have this condition and maybe they don't have the time to come here and request or gather together neighbors also get that same opportunity. And at the same time, I don't believe that dropping the speed limit without changing the design conditions is really going to do anything unless you have enforcement there regularly to make that change. So those are two of my concerns. I think a lot of these things, and I've dealt with them working in transportation, it's like, well, you did it for so-and-so, why can't we get it done? How do we create a process to look at all these conditions equally and maybe prioritize them in terms of safety, crash data, lighting, and things like that, versus just taking them one at a time and possibly missing people that don't have the time to gather together to do this?
Oh, thank you, Chair Miller and Commissioner Pankowitz. That's an excellent question. For this one, it started as a resident petition, but then our staff did do a evaluation through our neighborhood traffic management where they saw the data that showed persistent speeding. And as we reduce this, or as we request to reduce the functional classification and then the speed limit subsequently after that, that's just the phase one. The phase two is adding those traffic calmings, changing the physical environment to reduce speeding. I agree that just changing a speed limit doesn't reduce speeding, but there is the plan to put speed tables along this corridor. And so when a petition comes in, we definitely want to do a staff evaluation of those requests. And then if there's other situations like this where a minor collector is really just connecting two short segments together, we can look at those kind of conditions as we bring up to the next update to the Transportation Action Plan, which is only 3 to 4 years away, as we do our comprehensive review of the functional classification. And maybe we can spot similar of these conditions before the petitions have to come forward to us. So those two things, a comprehensive review, and then as the petitions come in, we do our evaluation to make sure that we can at least justify, and not just, as you just said, the case where somebody says, you gave that to them, why not us? Well, we do our evaluation and say there was different conditions to what they faced as opposed to what you're facing right now, and that's why there's the difference. So definitely trying to explain that we've done our due diligence on that as well.
Yeah, I recall several months ago, we had another resident petition with a similar condition, and I would encourage staff to keep a list. You don't have to necessarily keep all the crash data and everything together, but anytime we look at transportation improvements, it's good to look at the whole network and see if we were to face this, what would the priorities, where would the priorities be, right? But yeah.
Commissioner, thank you. That's a great comment. We'll make sure we keep logging everything.
Chair Miller, Commissioner Penguin, if I may add, Nathan, so we do have the speed ordinance and the collision report every 2 years that we produce. And to answer your question about how do we know that area if they don't come up and ask you, right? So we, based on those data, we know which area, which corridor is a high crash area. We can focus on the improvement. So those are the things that we do every 2 years. Thank you.
Commissioners? Vice Chair?
Thank you, Nathan. I just had a couple comments. First of all, I agree with the reclassification of both streets. It sounds like we're trying to compensate, especially on 78th, for a past error or something to that effect, whether the street was designed intentionally or unintentionally. It is what it is, but at least dropping it to a local will help. The concern I have, though, is kind of the same concern I had last time when we agreed to bypass the neighborhood traffic management policies to allow the speed tables to go in, which I still support, but dropping it to a local will still require council approval for any kind of traffic calming. It's not going to change the speed. I mean, the speed limit will change. It's not going to change the behavior, obviously. And I just caution about that. But I would also just request that when this change occurs, we do some baseline studies. Certainly you got speed, but it would also be nice to do some kind of license plate study to record where people are coming from. If it's all neighborhood generated traffic, then it's not going to really change. But if people are truly using it for a cut through, then before and after license plate studies will tell you if that behavior has changed. And that might help in the future with any kind of recommendations that come out of here. Because I think people are probably still going to use this until it's no longer convenient. And maybe the speed tables will be enough, I don't know. And I would just recommend the same with the speed before and after to get some baseline information. But it's a dicey situation, and I think this is a good first step, but I don't know it's going to solve anything going forward. So.
Vice Chair Wilcoxon, thank you. That's a good comment. We'll keep it as a reference and make sure that it'd be a good study for us to conduct and get that information for sure.
Mr. Dome, can you please bring back up the slide of the recommendation?
Oh.
There we go. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
I move that we accept staff recommendations for reclassification of both streets.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. You got that? We take a
Motion by Vice Chair Wilcoxon and second by Commissioner Cardella. Chair Miller, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wilcoxen?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Marmon?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Commissioner Pankowicz?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kofthau?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cardella?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, discussion for future agenda items. Commissioners have a list of future agenda items on here. I know we talked a little bit about that last month. Commissioner Marmon, did you have?
Yes. I know I, for one, and maybe other commissioners would be interested in attending some of these open houses that go on around the community regarding transportation projects. And I would suggest that, excuse me, that a general list of these meetings be provided to us, perhaps in the agenda as a note, so that we could have the option to attend and listen to the presentations. Thank you.
That's a very good idea, thank you. And I will take also this opportunity to put in a plug for the opportunities to learn more about the Transportation Safety Plan. There's a pop-up event right pretty much outside this door on Saturday at the Fall Festival, some interactive walking assessments, so check your calendars and see if you can come to any of that. Are there any other items that we haven't taken? Commissioner Pankowitz.
Yeah, in reference to the resident that stopped by earlier in their comment about changing a transit route to serve the health center, I would be interested to get a presentation, not necessarily on the transit, but exactly how does the city take the process of changing those routes, like what it takes to change them, I guess, and how it's done, how often it's analyzed, and also how does it serve low-income people that rely on the bus, and how does it serve their needs?
Chair Miller, Commissioner Pankowitz, thank you. We'll take note and make sure we come back with a presentation.
And along with that, you have at the bottom of the first page, transportation linked to the Tree and Shade program. I know that a lot of jurisdictions here in the Valley are looking at how to shade bus stops better, and I would be interested in that presentation as well.
Yes, we can bring forward how we do our our transit stops, and how we try to maximize shade on those. We definitely have a way that we're trying to accomplish that in our new structures, do that as best as we can. So we'd love to present that. I am having transit come back in April for their commission presentation, so it could be either part of that or its own individual thing, but we're going to have a robust conversation of transit coming up in the spring.
One more request.
If I can just add very quickly, because Valley Metro just started outreach for a bus network redesign, doing outreach this fall, coming back with a draft plan in the spring, so we might want to coordinate with them.
Yeah.
I think there are 40 meetings planned, opportunities to provide input.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, that would be a really good presentation to have. And lastly, we had a lot of rains this weekend. A lot of streets got flooded, and I've been really curious to see how, we talk about tree and shade, but just landscape in general and low-impact development, and the ways that I know Mesa has a lot of these designs along certain streets in the light rail, where I didn't drive by when it rained, but they seem to capture a lot more water. What does that take, and how do we know which areas are more prone to flooding in that way, and what we could do better landscape-wise to capture a lot of that?
Thank you. Yeah, we can add that to the items and see if we can get somebody to present on that and what we can present on that.
Vice Chair Wilcoxen.
Thank you, Chair Miller. I actually see it now. I was going to ask for an update on the cool pavement, but I think it's in there as white pavement results. I think that's the same thing, right?
That would be the same thing.
Yeah.
We'll switch that to cool pavement, and we do have a plan to bring pavement forward, so maybe we can link that together and see what the results of the cool pavement was from Phoenix. So we
Sounds
can
good.
have a couple slides on that too.
Great, thanks.
Commissioner Kafta?
I had a couple of items that I would be interested in. I guess the trolley, I think, I mean, I see how Tempe uses their trolley or their neighborhood circulator, and, you know, it goes much later than ours and is available on the weekends as well. And so I would be interested if we could have a presentation on how the I guess the hours of operation for the trolley is used, because I think it would be really nice to have on the weekends when people are home and they can utilize it more. Like, I see the kids using it a lot, you know, around the school hours. They get a lot of use, and then, but, you know, on the weekends, it's just nowhere to be found. And I understand that's just because of their hours, their working hours, but yeah, I'd be interested if there could be some more information about how the hours are determined.
We definitely have that information, so we'll add that to the transit update. And I guess that be an open invitation now that if anybody has any burning questions for transit, I can start relaying those over, and we can tailor that presentation to answer the questions beforehand instead of just afterwards.
And then the other question I have, or another thing I'd be interested in, because I remember you've heard me talk about this before, when McDowell Road got repaved. There used to be, at the intersections going north-south, there used to be the symbol on the ground saying "Stop here to request green." And when they redid it and then they repainted, they did not put that symbol back. You can still see it at the arms for the stoplights. And you know, since I live on Thomas and Miller, I see that that's getting repaved right now. You know, there's no pavement markings currently there, and there used to be, you know, I can still see that, and I'm just concerned that those markings will go away when they're done there. So I guess the question is just how transportation and streets kind of interact, and how streets is made aware of like what markings should be replaced when they do these pavement when they do the pavement work and stuff like that, and then they do the repaving. So I'd be interested in seeing how that all interacts together.
Yeah, John seems eager to answer this question, so I'll pass it over to him.
Yeah. Chair Miller, Commissioner Kafta, that's a very good question. We are actually working very closely with the paving team. Before they pave, they're supposed to as-built the area. So they have to document what was there, and when they're done paving, they're supposed to put everything back. I think there's a couple of projects previously that was not doing that, but we're on top of it now. So every project that you see, they're going to put back, if not more, than what was before.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, because I was worried I was going to see that and right outside my doorstep now. So yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else for right now? No? Well, before we adjourn this meeting, I want to thank the commissioners. This is my last meeting as chair and my last meeting on the commission after 6 years of working with an excellent staff and such knowledgeable, thoughtful commissioners. You can look at us and we make up a complete street. So I will leave this in the very capable hands of Vice Chair Wilcoxon. Wish you well as you move forward with the safety plan. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Chair Miller, I would say thank you for all the work you've done and how you've made the commission better. And they're pretty big shoes to fill, but I appreciate that.
9.5s.
So with that, I will make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.